Welcome to the Confidence in Singing podcast, where you can reclaim your voice and rediscover the joy of singing. I'm Aideen, and my guests include singers and voice experts who share their insights and journey to encourage singing for health, happiness, and fun. To support this podcast and join the Confidence in Singing community, just click on the Patreon link below. Welcome to the Confidence in Singing podcast. I'm Aideen, and today my guest is coming all the way from Brazil, Lais. You are so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Aideen.
Well, we're going to have a fantastic time today because your work is just so beautiful, so in alignment with my values and my beliefs around the value of voice and music and its potential to heal. And I'm going to read out a little bit of your bio so that people can kind of get a feel for kind of the way that you tend to work. I'm just going to repeat that. I'm just going to read out your bio now so that people get to know you a little more. Lais Scort is a Brazilian frequency holder, sound priestess and visibility coach for divine creators to see their true power and delight in it. She guides soul-led women to bring their inner light to shine outside through mentorship, sisterhood, and music. She uses channeling, astrology, sound, and radiance rituals in this realm and in the Imaginal to activate the parts of you that have been hidden. It leaves a lot of questions unanswered when I read that out. It's like, ooh, what's the Imaginal? What's a radiance ritual? Tell us a little more about how your work developed. Where have you brought these gifts from?
Yeah, it's always good when the bio brings questions, right? Because that starts a conversation. I feel that with other people's bios as well. So the imaginal realm is the realm of our subconscious, is the realm where we create worlds within worlds. And we can, there are some places that are created already because we collectively create, and each person can create your own. So if you ever heard of shamanic journeys, what you did, we talked a little bit before, this is working on the imaginal realm, as well as there are many modalities that work with the imaginal realm. I use the shamanic journey through sound, not just the drumming. We usually use music and any sounds that come to me to help the person through it. So sometimes little songs come, or just the humming and any other sounds that will help and support through it. And the people that I work with also end up bringing some sounds of their own. So yeah, we work intertwining the sound and the imaginal. And the radiance rituals, this is a term that I coined because everyone needs rituals to reconnect with yourself and your light. You radiate when you are connected with that inner light that we have. And these radiance rituals can be different for everyone. We find the ways that are going to work for each person through many things. Like I use astrology for that as well, identifying the things that work best for each person, but also just experimenting to see what will work.
That is beautiful. Rituals are so undervalued now, I think, compared to in past generations. And I think a lot of people have become they've kind of pushed away from any organized forms of rituals. A lot of those come from our society and from our religions. So you can create your own ritual. That's a new concept, I'm sure, for many of us.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we are in Aquarian age. Each person is creating different ways to work with things. I'm constantly changing mine. Sometimes I find something that I feel like I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, and then a few months I'm like, okay, time to update. And I change a little thing, but it's not like I'm leaving everything behind. It's just I need to adapt for the changes that I've been through that time.
Can you give us an example of a simple rituals in case anybody is listening going, I have no clue what she means?
Yeah, sure. So it can incorporate singing, humming. It can incorporate breath work. I use a lot of breath work. Sometimes I use yoga as well. My rituals usually have some form of yoga or celestial communication, which is more like a fluid dance with mantras. Like you're patterning, you're incorporating those beautiful sounds into your aura, creating a geometry around you. It can have to do with journaling as well, if you want to add that to the rituals. So basically, you're creating a sequence of things that help you reconnect with yourself. I usually start with some chanting. I do a kriya.
Say that one again, because I really didn't understand that one.
Which one? Kriya?
Yeah.
Kriya? It's in Kundalini Yoga we call kriyas what people call asanas.
Kriya. Yeah, because Kriya.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kriya.
Yeah, Kriya. Yeah, I'm familiar with that from the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi.
Yes, because the kriyas are movements.
Okay.
Yes. And asanas are
static
stationary
postures. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, postures. So yeah, kriyas are movements. So I do that. I do some dancing and some pounding on my chest and some prayer to really connect. And then I do some journaling after I'm really connected.
It's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful because I've been reading a book called The Morning Miracle, which is about having a morning routine, which is basically a simple kind of ritual. And I've been thinking very carefully about what needs to be in there to serve my soul and how much music is important to me to do something with that. So today I did more of the things I wanted to do in the morning that I have had a chance to before, and it makes such a difference. I've started combining things. I'm a multitasker, so I need to call my mom in Ireland. So I've figured out that if I'm putting on makeup, that's when I call my mom in Ireland. So it's like I get two things done at the same time. But you might not call that a ritual, but it's about putting habits and things in place that support your day. And me connecting with my mom and me looking good, they both are very important to me. So they fit with my values. And if you do anything in a mindful way, it becomes prayerful and meditative. And so I think that sometimes we can actually make simple tasks a ritual.
I would actually call that a ritual. You're connecting with your ancestrality. Your mom is your first connection with your ancestrality. And you're working on your temple.
My body temple. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Can maybe we backtrack a little bit? So we know that you do all this amazing work and such an interesting way of working with people. But where did it come from? When did you start doing? When did it start coming to you to do more work with your voice?
Yeah, the voice. Actually, the work with my voice. I came back. It was 2019. It's not that old. I sung before, but I had an accident in 2008 and I broke my neck. I had a lot of difficulty with breath. I couldn't play instruments anymore. So I disconnected with that part of myself for quite a long time, just because I didn't sound anymore like I sounded. It was hard to sing. I even got a little bit dizzy when I went for higher notes, which were easy before and not anymore. And you know how much the posture is important for singing as well, and I lost that. So it was in 2019 that I actually my dad passed, and the only thing that I could think that could help me other than gratitude and yoga, which were helping, but were not like, there's nothing that can really help you that much with grief as much as music. So I reconnected with singing, and I started singing my own songs just to process, just to move things around. And actually, even before that, the Kundalini Yoga was helping me because the chanting was helping me reconnect with my voice. So from that, it was easier for me to like, okay, I can't sing, because if I can chant, I can sing. And that helped me so much, not only to heal, but also to reconnect with my essence, that I felt like this was always part of me, is the thing that I most enjoy about life. I need to bring that to my clients as well. So I started finding ways to reconnect that.
I think that's so true. If music is in you, if you love it, when we're not doing that, it's like an empty hole in our hearts sometimes. And it was certainly like that for me, that whenever I didn't sing, it was usually after some emotional event or some disappointment in my life. When Mike and I first met, we met in Dublin, and he went back to Los Angeles, and I went to Los Angeles to visit him, hoping that we'd be making a plan to stay together, but it didn't really happen then. And I didn't sing for 3 years because my heart was a little bit broken. So it's interesting. And I think sometimes we feel like it's gone forever, but it's going back to your voice and reclaiming your power again through the voice is part of the healing process for that. And it can be a beautiful journey. It's a vulnerable journey, and it can mean looking at parts of us that we don't want to look at that carefully. But it can be beautiful, because singing, I think, is such a unique thing in the way that our minds work when we're being playful, and our mind is more integrated when we do music. So there's more opportunities for change.
Yeah, definitely. It's working with everything is vibration. So we're working with our own vibration. Our voice is the sound of our soul. It's our own frequency in there, and we take so much from the vibration and frequency from things around us all the time, even things that are inaudible, that are around, like even radio waves and other waves that are in the environment. And one of the easiest ways to come back to center, come back to your own vibration, is using your sound. It's humming or singing or chanting something to recalibrate, realign, really come back to who am I without all this interference around.
Yes, that's so true. I remember when I started meditating, the teacher would often say that the meditation helps to create space. So it's almost like you're able to push the stuff that's bothering us or the outside world out a little further, so that you feel more peace inside and you can see things from a different perspective, slightly more objectively. It's like you can take a step back from life, but it takes a little bit of, you have to decide to take that power back. And when we do it with the voice, like you said, I believe it's fun as well, but it also, yes, it's a vibration. And people who learn singing that aren't maybe thinking of it as a healing tool actually think of their voice as like a movement of air forward, when actually I feel like our bodies are more like a tuning fork. Like it's like
Yes.
your whole self vibrates and the sound ripples, because we can hear someone when they say something when we're behind them often, if they're using their voice well. And so I love to think that vibration as well is infinite, because it's moving through the walls and outside the room. And my mother is she's a musician, and she does choir music, And she would feel that anything, like, St. Augustine would have said, singing is like praying twice. So it's double the strength. And she really believes in that vibration is moving through, and it has a continuity. It's not like when you stop singing that the vibration stops. It has to go somewhere. It gets absorbed by the walls maybe of the house. So the walls hold that vibration or hold that prayer. Or if you sing near water, who knows how far that vibration can go. It's actually exciting to think of it that way.
I absolutely agree with all that you're saying. And actually, those are the things that I believe as well. Even one of my songs talks about patterning things into stones, into water, into anything. Because that's what we're doing. We are patterning those frequencies. The words have power, the sound have power. When we are singing or speaking, we're actually shaping life force itself, the breath, into sound.
That's beautiful. I understand what you're saying. Shaping this life force into something, because we know that there's oxygen around us. It's like this invisible energy. It supports us. We don't even know it's there. We breathe it all the time. We couldn't live without it. And when we take it in and make sound with it, it's like, I see that's like the invisible energy of the divine that we're taking in and then co-creating. I knew that we had so much in alignment and in common. This is exciting to talk about sound in this way. And I really appreciate you being on the podcast, because it makes me just so happy to talk about it this way. And I'm getting a little emotional as well, because it feels like a part of me wants to talk about that more.
Me too. I absolutely love talking about this. So so grateful that you invited me.
Yes. And like everything that we say, even this podcast and the way that we put out the podcast has, it has longevity, and it can, when someone hears this, the way we're talking about sound, and if they agree with that and understand that, it becomes a living energy with them that they may speak about again to someone else. And it is creating that domino effect. And I feel like there's power in that, a gentle and very persistent power.
I want to pick on what you're saying, because you mentioned the ripple that sound creates. And that's also something that Hazrat Inayat Khan, he's a Sufi master, talks about. The sound never ends. It just continues expanding and expanding and expanding into the universe. So that is beautiful, and at the same time, it is a little bit scary, because something that you said, it will continue there. So we need to be mindful of what we are putting out as well. But also it creates, like you mentioned, like space. We can use our sound to create like a bubble of some sort of protection in our vibration, like our space, our vibration, this is just about using our intentional energy to create that. And also with patterning anything through sound, we can create like substantial change through the sounds, through the words that we create. So if we sing something, and it's good to pay attention what we're singing as well. Often we start picking up on that energy of those words. So if we want something and that song has what we want, it can help. If it's not what we want, it can be a bad thing.
Yeah, so like it's reinforcing something that you don't want. I've noticed that when I work with students, because I always ask them to bring their own songs. And if they're feeling very sad about a love lost, or, they often will bring those very sad songs. So it becomes a journey to get, the song becomes a way to heal that pain. But also at a certain point, I have to say to them, maybe we need to pick something happier to sing, because that journey has to come to something, and we shouldn't get stuck.
Yeah. And I also feel that songs can be portals, because when we create a song, sometimes we don't even know where those words come from. And where those sounds come from, I believe that it's spirit working through us and with us. Other people believe some different things, but that's the way I see it. And sometimes we don't even fully understand something that's in there. And someone will listen to that and will unpack that. Or maybe even us, in a while, we're going to listen to that and understand. And that happened to me both with my songs and other people's songs. Like there's one phrase in there, or sometimes a whole song, that activates something, a remembrance, something that you like, oh, now I understand. And that happens with books as well. But there's something about music that goes into ourselves, into our subconscious very easily, even when we think, oh, I didn't get it, but it activates something at some point.
Ooh, that's an exciting thought. So it's activating a portal into a new way of thinking or new way of being. I actually had put out a song before Christmas last year called Rule the World. It's a cover version of a boy band song. And one of my my friends that I made online during this year, who's a development coach and she works with people, she was listening to it while she was walking down the street, and she told me the story that she couldn't keep walking while she was listening. She had to stop to listen. And she said she got like emotional listening. And I was like, oh my goodness, because it's such a compliment. And I do love to bring pure energy with my songs if I can. Before I recorded that song, I would have done some like practices to like balance my own chakras and, say a few mantras, especially for the divine feminine. That's one thing that I do. So that's like my secret trick that now everybody knows. I feel that it was not me, purely. It was me bringing through a very pure energy. And I work quite hard to maintain my energy at a level that is more pure than the part of me that is so frustrated all the time, or like I have my natural self is quite impatient and, lazy, and, I have lots of traits that like I have to, it's not that I want to repress them, but I need to be able to notice those things and to choose, sometimes to choose an action rather than a reaction. And that's what meditation really helps you to do, because when you can step back from something, when you have more space around you, you can see yourself more clearly. And also when Mike says to me, Aideen, when you spoke to that waitress, she was like really she really noticed your tone changed because you weren't happy about whatever it was. And I remember him saying it to me, and I think he had said it to me twice, but the second time he said it to me, I went and I said, almost like I made a really sincere prayer, that my voice only transmits kindness, and that even when I'm upset and I think that, standards are really low, that I'll communicate in a kind way, and that my voice and the energy of my voice will have that love in there, even when I'm speaking about something I'm unhappy about. And the next time it actually happened, my voice sounded completely, and I was like, oh, I'm at it. I didn't even think about it. It really worked. The sincerity of the prayer was I was assisted in some way, and it just hasn't been a problem in the same way. And occasionally my mind will go there. My mind will go, but oh no, this isn't right. Or, I have a standard for service, when I go to restaurants that I'd like to see. And it's terrible. But I suppose because I worked in service industries and stuff like that, and there's different levels everywhere. But I am more careful now, and I notice my mind going there. And if it's going to be unkind, there's just no point. I mean, I'd prefer to have a bad, I was going to say a cup of tea, because I can't, the tea here when I go out to the restaurants I like a nice cup of tea. In Ireland, cup of tea is our favorite thing. So anyway, I'm digressing from your story, Lais. So let's come back.
Yeah, I actually love that you mentioned that you have your rituals for coming back to rituals before singing, because that's a big thing as well. Of course, once we get into singing, the singing itself will make us feel better, but especially when you're recording something that you're going to share with someone. And it doesn't have to be only singing, it can be even if you're speaking or you're recording a video or stuff, something like that. But especially for singing, because it, like I said, it goes directly into the subconscious. We want to be mindful of what energy we're putting to that, and I do as well. I have some processes that I do that include, of course, um, some of the breath work in my case.
Sorry,
I feel
breath
that
work. Oh,
helps.
yeah.
Breath work, yeah. And also being mindful of how I'm uh, not processing, how I'm channeling the sound through each chakra I'm channeling and so on. Because if we communicate through the heart, usually we have more of a open, loving, compassionate energy that we need so much. And I feel that music should come from that center. Of course, you can work with other higher chakras and with the aura and so on, but coming from the heart is the thing that will actually create a better world, I feel.
Definitely. So I'll tell you what I do, right? When I'm working with that, something similar, I draw the energy up from the lower chakras and I draw the energy down from the higher chakras and then everything through the heart. So
Yeah.
that's trying to include
Yeah,
everything.
it's so interesting. We do. Yeah, it's so interesting that we use similar technique.
We must have similar spirit guides or something going on.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. And, maybe somebody's listening going, I don't know about any of that stuff. But, when you believe in something and when you feel like if I do mantra before I start singing, my voice audibly changes. I could hear a difference.
Me too. Yeah. I notice it too.
Yeah. So if I haven't been doing as many warm-ups as I should have, I need those prayers extra.
Yeah.
So has singing had any other unexpected benefits in your life that you didn't realize? And if you hadn't been singing for such a long time, and then you started, what kind of result or what kind of change did you notice? And did anything surprise you?
Main thing, my confidence in myself. This was a big thing, and I know that your business even brings that up. It's everyone, not just for me. I see the change in confidence for anyone who starts singing, because you start listening to yourself. And for me, I had that before, and losing it was a big loss of confidence for me, because it was so ingrained in my identity, who I was. And not having that was like, okay, who am I without this? And I had a lot of who am I without this moments and things, especially with going to a wheelchair and all these things. But the voice is still like, it's so much part of my essence that it was really like, who am I without this? Like I said. And reconnecting with that was, I really feel like this was the big thing that brought me back to myself. And I started getting more confidence in speaking and talking about my thoughts, in sharing my ideas and my vision of the world. But more than that, when we go into creating songs through that, it both helped me see a wisdom coming through me. And I say true because I truly believe it's not me necessarily, it's me working with something greater. That those teachings helped me, and also helped me see that there are things that can come to me that don't come when I'm just talking about other things. And also processing things for myself, because when you write a song, you can start in a very low moment. Sometimes you are in that bottom, but you can, through the process of creating a song, transmute that energy into something way higher and start getting the insights and getting the lesson that sometimes it would take years for you to understand. But in one songwriting session, you can unpack all those things.
Beautiful.
And then like really anchor that to a song.
I can feel that energy. It's beautiful. And I mean, just to reiterate what you're saying, that there's a value to writing a song for just you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be for anyone else. It can be just yours.
That's really important, I think, for everybody to hear, because I mean, I love to say to people, you know, you sing in the car, you sing in the shower, you are a singer. Because for me, I was asked what was my dream, and I said I want to be a singer, but I can't do that. It was like completely backwards. I saw that word singer as meaning something different from what it actually means, which is somebody who sings. And songwriting, I think, is something that anybody can play with and try and do and use as a healing tool as well.
Yeah, it is a huge healing tool. I know that so many of the singers that are like true artists do this for themselves first. They're not. There's a difference between being a performer and being an artist, and you can be both, but the artist is doing that because they need to put that out of their chest. They need to create something. And we all are artists. In my vision, everyone is creative. You just need to work through that and be open to create. Because I even have a teacher, a Kundalini Yoga teacher, who recently passed, Guru Jagad, who says that there's only so much you can go into the creative path without having a spiritual connection. Because initially you have that lucky energy of who's just starting and so on, and you might have some interesting ideas and so on, but if you're not open to be a channel to receive things, your stories will end and you don't have anything else to say. But if you're open to receive, it's a resource that never dies.
I think there's so much in that. And I think the way that society and education is, we're very much taught to close things down, to kind of work things out in our minds. And, you know, that concept of leaving space for something to come in, that you go out for a walk and somehow you feel different about the whole situation. And it wasn't your brain that figured that out. It was being in nature. It was the trees that helped you figure it out, maybe. And how underestimated is a beautiful lake or the trees for, you know, if we're open and we're just being, we can breathe in that a healing force that Mother Earth is providing for us all the time too.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And that the sounds of nature are a beautiful song too. That vibration created.
So true.
I have a huge, you know, we talk about air being the source of sound, you know, when we take in some air, and we don't need a lot of air to sing. So I try to remind people of that, you know, that we need very little air to actually sing. But when I see the wind blowing through the trees and that air creating the sound of the rustling trees and the leaves start, you know, whispering, and I start waving back at them going, hey, because I'm like so excited to hear the sound. Anyway, I'm showing all of my craziness today, which is all good. I feel like you can understand my craziness, Laz.
I can definitely understand that.
That's cool.
And yeah, listening to the silence, which is never silence, by the way. There's always some sound in there. It's a great source of inspiration. And people are so anxious these days that I feel like even in conversations, I start laughing these days because some people feel the need to, and this might be someone who's listening, feel the need to fill every single silent moment with sound. You know, when you're talking with someone and they're like, okay, yeah, yeah. I start laughing because I know that it's like silence is uncomfortable.
It can
There are
be.
two things that people really feel uncomfortable with: silence and eye gazing. Like when you're
Oh yeah, like
gazing someone in the
staring at
eyes,
someone.
people feel like, don't look at me. What you're seeing. Like, I know that the eyes are windows for the soul. We feel really like you're seeing right through me. But I find it interesting that the two things that really help us see and hear the connection that we all have are the things that people feel scared of.
Completely. I mean, I love teaching about silence in terms of singing, because it's in the silence that the breath is received. But if we're worried about the breath coming in, and we take that active breath that an inexperienced singer will tend to do, or I mean, there's other reasons, anxiety or anything like that, if you're nervous. But when we don't trust our body to take in some air, we can't be fully present in that silent moment. The other thing that happens if we are singing a song, sometimes we will be thinking about the next line straight away when we finish the last one, instead of allowing the last line to resonate for a moment. So there's some beauty and some real deep lessons in learning to sing something and to feel into the silences of the sound. And I love that that came up in our conversation because it's beautiful.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you say this. Maybe that's why so many people have difficulty to sing in time. Like you're always chasing the next line.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that makes total sense.
You know, self-consciousness really, when we're too conscious of ourselves, it disrupts our listening skills. So if there's music playing and there's a beat, we can't hear the beat if we're worried, like if we're really like scared of the, you know, forgetting something. So learning to be very present has to come into learning to sing, because you have to be present. You have to trust that you've got it. You have to trust that if you don't have it, that you can get over that and move on. And you have to trust that, you know, you're good enough in that moment, because nobody is perfect. Very few performances are ever perfect. And certainly you'll never find one performance that everyone in the whole world would love.
True.
So you're enough.
And actually, yeah, and everyone has a beautiful voice. Some people will say, I disagree, my voice is terrible, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Someone will like your voice. And it starts with you liking your voice, of course, because people don't listen to themselves enough. I feel like even just the habit of recording yourself on your phone and listening back can be a good exercise to really know you. Because usually people are like, this is my voice, doesn't sound like me, and so on. And of course, there's the whole, like we're talking about the sound not being just the air that we push out, it's the whole resonance. And yes, there is a different sound that we have because our bones are vibrating in our face and in our head. And yes, the voice will sound different for us than for others, but it's good for you to know how you sound outside yourself.
Definitely.
And love that too.
Yes. It's definitely a stage. I always say to singers, don't record yourself until you're ready to have some self compassion and self-love, because we don't always hear what we want to hear, especially if we're learning to sing or for some, you know, or we're learning to do a speech. We're going to make some mistakes. So to kind of go, oops, I made a mistake there. Or, you know, to be very gentle and playful and childlike is really one of the things that I think makes it easier for me to teach singing, is that I bring everybody back to just the joyful feeling of making sound yourself.
I love that you said that, because I'm the same. It is one of the most joyful things to do. Singing. It is something that kids love. They're just laughing and making funny sounds and creating their own songs. And the very thing that people lose, the thing that people lose that at some point, either because someone said that, oh, your voice is not good, or you can't sing, or coming back to that thing of it has to be a performance. No, it doesn't have to be a performance. If you're performing, sure, you want to improve your performance, but singing on itself can be good for you, even if you're not thinking of performing or creating something that needs to be perfect. And even the need to be perfect, even for performance, is something that it doesn't make sense, because if you think of your favorite songs, usually it's in those moments where it's not perfect that you feel the most emotion, and that it's just beautiful, and a voice cracks. Why people love that raspness in some singer's voice, that's not perfect, but it sounds great because we feel the emotion in that.
It's very real. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions as to what good singing is. I mean, if you listen to someone like Bob Dylan, who was an iconic singer, he didn't have a great voice. He didn't sing in tune a lot of the time, but he put his heart into it. So that heart thing, coming back to that. And when I've worked with students, it's always been about, don't stand up there and try to be perfect. Just put your heart into the message of that song and be the channel for that message. And don't be so self-conscious if you can at all, and enjoy it, because it's liberating to sing. It's freedom, and especially if you're around other people who are supportive, and you have some, like a team or support around being everyone learning together. It's just a wonderful dynamic, and it's very, very beautiful.
Yeah. And if anyone is worried about pitch as well, of course in a performance, well, there are some things for performance as well, but everyone in the industry of music tunes their voices these days. So don't think everyone who's playing the radio is perfect. They're not perfect. They're focusing on the emotion first as well. It's just that the tools to help them are there.
Yes, and I know this for a fact because Mike is a music producer. So as soon as he gets his hands on my vocals, he picks it apart for anything that doesn't sound. Now, and then, you have to judge it. Some things are not worth changing and some things are worth changing. But I don't even sound as good as my recordings.
Yeah, me neither. I do this for myself, and it's a humbling experience to see, like, okay, this is something that I want to keep, but this, of course, you don't want to sound like a robot unless you're going for that super auto-tuning sound. But there are some things that the performance was exactly what it needed to be, and for a recording, you need to make it just a tiny bit better. So you just adjust that.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And like you said, everything we hear on the radio, especially the newer music, is very, it's, auto-tuned or pitch corrected in some way often. And also, when you're recording, you get to sing it 3 or 4 times, each each line 3 or 4 times, and the song 4 or 5 times. So you just pick the best bits. So like from beginning to end, you haven't done it perfectly, but with everything that you did that day, you'll get a really good performance.
Yeah. Yet I always, both for me and for clients, I always go for the most like heartfelt performance, even if it's the pitch is not always perfect, over a perfect pitch thing that doesn't have the emotion in there, because you're so self-conscious of singing correctly.
Absolutely. I would really agree with that. So we've run on. I've been loving our conversation so much that I let it run on a little longer than I was expecting to. So is there anything else you'd like to say to anybody listening today?
Yeah. So bring the fun back if you're going to sing, if you're going to create anything, don't make it like I have to or I should be doing this. What would be fun for you to do? This is the advice that I would give. What would be fun for you to do? What would bring you joy? Because singing can elevate your energy so much if you only allow yourself to go there with no expectation, no need to judge yourself, and just have fun. And the best things come from that.
That's beautiful. I agree. Love that. Now, if anyone wants to find out more about your work, would you like to tell people a little bit about how you work with people and what they can expect from you if they go looking for your website?
Yeah, sure. I have more than one way that people can work with me. So we talked a little bit about journeys. I do this sound sanctuary, which is a journey with sound, true sound. And this is always tailored to the person's needs, whatever someone needs to experience, to go train an initiation or create anything for themselves. So that's really beautiful and helps unblock a lot of things. And I also work with clients through the sound catharsis, which is helping either heal or transmute or create something through sound. It's a little bit of that, creating a song for yourself. And if someone wants to go deeper into that, we can work with that as well. But really just transmuting a story, for example, can be so healing. So we work through that.
Is that like a manifestation tool as well?
It could be. Yeah, you can use that if you want. Creating a song can be for anything. And there's a lot of word magic and sound magic into it. We go through all these beautiful things. I just love it. And also for artists that are going to creative blocks, I also have a session for that, just to clear those blocks and get into that connection with spirit that's so necessary in creating. And sometimes the artist has a spiritual side but has a tough time merging the two parts. And that's for that.
Sounds amazing. And I hope that there's some of the listeners take you up on that invitation to work with you, because it sounds very deep and profound in terms of like you're going to places where someone might not ever get the chance to go unless they have someone that they trust and that can guide them through that. And I think that's really what shamanic work is, where you become a guide. I haven't trained in that, and but I understand that it is very much a spiritual journey with someone who knows how to navigate that, so that you're not trying to do it by yourself.
Yeah, actually, everyone is its own guide. One thing that I love about shamanic work is it's really playful. It's really bringing that child back. It's ripping the layers of identity and all the things that we think we need to be. It's really going back to the essence. And of course, you want to do this feeling safe with someone that's working with you. You can do it alone as well, because actually each person is their own guide. I'm just taking them there, and from there they can create whatever they want.
Wonderful. Well, I'll be including your contact details in the show notes for the podcast, wherever you're accessing it from. And thank you everybody who's been listening. It's been a wonderful conversation. I've had a lot of fun, and I feel like we've made really good friends. So look forward to talking with you more in the future. Is there anything else that you'd want to say, or will we wrap it up?
I think we can wrap up.
That's beautiful. A sweet ending is always so nice. So thank you so much for bringing your beautiful energy to us on the Confidence in Singing podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Lais, and we will see you all again at the next episode of the Confidence in Singing podcast. Bye-bye.